She has a sex toy. Here's how you use it together. If you watched part 1 of this series, the one about Donald and the drawer and the conversation that changed 11 years of marriage, you already know the numbers.
More than half of women in long-term relationships own a personal pleasure device. Most of their partners have no idea, and the ones who find out rarely know what to do with that information.
This video is for the men who are ready to do something with it. Not defensively, not reluctantly, but as a man who has decided that his partner's pleasure is worth understanding, fully, specifically, and without ego getting in the way.
Because here is what the research shows, and we are going to spend the next 12 minutes walking through it in detail. Couples who use sex toys together report higher sexual satisfaction, higher emotional intimacy, higher rates of female orgasm, and stronger relationship quality than couples who do not. Not one of those things. All of them. Together. This is not a video about being replaced. It is a video about finally completing the circuit. Let's get into it.
Why most men get this wrong from the start. Before we talk about how, we need to talk about the conversation that has to happen first. Because the single most common mistake men make when they decide to engage with this topic is skipping the conversation entirely.
They either say nothing and hope the device appears without discussion, or they make a joke that signals discomfort, or they frame the suggestion around their own curiosity rather than her experience. All three approaches send the same signal to her nervous system. This is about him, not me. Dr. Ian Kerner, sex therapist, researcher, and author of She Comes First, argues that the introduction of any new element into a couple's intimate life lives or dies on the quality of the conversation that precedes it, not the act itself, the conversation. A conversation that begins with genuine curiosity about her experience. I want to understand what feels good for you, and I want us to explore that together, creates emotional safety. A conversation that begins with performance anxiety dressed up as openness does not. The difference is intention, and she can feel the difference immediately.
So, before anything else, before any device, any approach, any practical step in this video, the conversation is the starting point. And the conversation begins with one thing: her experience as the priority. Not your comfort with the idea, not your curiosity, her experience. When that is genuinely true, when she feels that, everything that follows becomes possible. What the research says happens when couples engage together. Let's build the case from the research, because the findings are more encouraging than most men expect. A study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine by Dr. Debbie Herbenick and her team at Indiana University found that men who used vibrators with their partners reported significantly higher sexual satisfaction than men who did not. The study also found that men who incorporated vibrators into partnered sex reported higher confidence in their ability to satisfy their partner, which directly contradicts the insecurity most men anticipate feeling.
Why? Because the device removes the performance pressure and replaces it with presence. The man who is not anxiously monitoring whether she is getting there is free to be genuinely attentive to her responses, her body, her experience. That attentiveness is what she actually finds most connecting.
And connection, as we have covered throughout this series, is the foundation of everything. A 2016 study in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy found that couples who used personal pleasure devices together reported significantly higher rates of female orgasm, higher overall sexual satisfaction for both partners, and greater emotional intimacy during and after sexual encounters. That last finding deserves attention. The couples who engaged together were having more sex, not less, because she was having a better experience. And a woman who is having a better experience wants more of it. Dr. Emily Nagoski's research on the dual control model, the brake and accelerator system of female arousal that we covered in the third video of this series, helps explain why. When a woman feels that her pleasure is genuinely prioritized, her inhibitory system releases. And a released brake, in the context of genuine emotional safety and physical attentiveness, produces the kind of full presence arousal that most couples in long-term relationships have not experienced in years. The device is not the cause. The prioritization is. The conversation, how to actually have it. Most men who want to introduce this topic into their relationship do not know how to begin, so let's be specific. The conversation does not need to be formal. It does not need to be a scheduled sit-down with an agenda. It needs to be honest, curious, and free of any outcome pressure. The simplest and most effective opening, grounded in what sex therapists consistently recommend, is a question asked at a neutral moment. Not in the bedroom, not immediately after an intimate encounter. In an ordinary moment where both of you are relaxed and there is no performance context around the conversation. Something like this.
I've been thinking about us, about making sure you're really getting what you need from our intimate life. Is there anything you've wanted to try or wanted more of that we haven't talked about?
That question is powerful for 3 reasons. It is about her, not about a device. It opens a space rather than introducing a specific proposal. And it signals that she is safe to be honest, that whatever she says will be received rather than deflected. If she mentions a device she already uses or has used, the response that builds the most trust is not surprise or defensiveness. It is, tell me more about what you like about it. I want to understand. That response, curiosity rather than reaction, is the one that opens the door to everything that follows. Dr. Laura Berman, a sex educator and relationship therapist with research featured in peer-reviewed literature, argues that the couples who navigate this conversation most successfully treat their intimate life as an ongoing, evolving conversation rather than a fixed script. They check in, they ask, they update their understanding of each other as they change. The couples who struggle are the ones who had the conversation once or never and assumed the information they gathered then was still accurate now. She is not the same woman she was 3 years ago, and what she needs has probably shifted. The man who knows that and asks is the man she trusts most. The anatomy reminder, why this works. We covered this in depth in the earlier videos in this series, but it is worth a focused reminder here, because it is the anatomical foundation for everything that follows. The clitoris is the primary structure of female orgasm.
It contains approximately 8,000 nerve endings, more than any other structure in the human body. Its full internal structure, mapped by Dr. Helen O'Connell in her landmark research at the Royal Melbourne Hospital, extends internally and surrounds the vaginal canal, which is why stimulation of the clitoral area from multiple angles is more effective than any single approach alone.
Between 70 and 80% of women cannot reach orgasm through penetration alone, a figure drawn from multiple large-scale studies and consistent across decades of research. What this means practically is that the devices most reliably associated with female orgasm in the research are those designed for external clitoral stimulation, consistent, focused vibration applied to the clitoris and its surrounding area, either during partnered sex or independently.
Research from Dr. Herbenick's team found that women who used clitoral vibrators during partnered sex reported orgasm rates dramatically higher than those who experienced penetration alone. In some studies, the difference was between 18% without and over 70% with. That gap, 18% to 70%, is not a small improvement. It is the difference between an intimate life where she almost never gets there and one where she almost always does. The device is the delivery mechanism for the stimulation her anatomy requires. The man is the partner who cares enough to make sure it arrives. The practical framework. 4 principles. Let's be specific and practical, because vague advice helps no one. Principle 1. She leads, you follow. The device is not yours to introduce, position, or manage unilaterally. Your role in the early stages is to be present, attentive, and responsive to her guidance. Ask what she likes. Ask what feels good. Let her show you rather than you directing the experience. This approach, which sex therapists call partner-led integration, produces the highest rates of both female satisfaction and male confidence because it removes guesswork and replaces it with genuine communication. Principle 2. It is a together tool, not a parallel one. The framing matters enormously. A device introduced as something separate from the intimacy, something that operates alongside connection rather than as part of it, creates emotional distance. A device integrated into shared touch, shared attention, and shared presence produces the opposite: deeper connection, heightened arousal for both partners, and the particular kind of intimacy that comes from genuinely exploring each other together. Keep your hands on her. Keep your attention on her face and her responses. Stay connected through the entire experience.
The device handles one aspect of her anatomy. You handle her. Principle 3. Communicate during, not just before. Couples who communicate in real time, asking what feels good, checking in on what she wants more or less of, staying verbally present throughout, report significantly higher satisfaction than those who have one preparatory conversation and then proceed in silence. Her preferences shift. What works in one moment may not work in the next. Stay curious, stay present, stay asking. This real-time communication also has a secondary benefit that the research documents consistently. It normalizes verbal communication during intimacy, which makes subsequent conversations, including the more difficult ones that long-term relationships always require, significantly easier to have. Principle 4. Her orgasm first. Always. This is not a new point. We have made it throughout this series. But in the context of incorporating a device, it becomes both easier and more important to commit to. Easier, because the device makes clitoral stimulation reliable and consistent in a way that manual stimulation alone often is not. More important, because the physiological and psychological conditions for sustained female arousal shift significantly after male orgasm. The man who ensures she arrives before he does is communicating through action rather than words that her experience is the priority. That message, delivered consistently, is one of the most powerful things a man can do for the long-term health of his intimate relationship.
What changes in the relationship over time? The research on what happens to couples over time when they engage this way is where the conversation becomes genuinely compelling. A longitudinal study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior followed couples who incorporated personal pleasure devices into their shared intimate lives over a 12-month period. The findings were consistent and significant.
Female orgasm frequency increased substantially. Sexual satisfaction scores for both partners rose. Reported emotional intimacy, measured separately from sexual activity, also increased. And perhaps most strikingly, couples in the study reported feeling more comfortable discussing other aspects of their relationship following the introduction of open sexual communication.
The intimate conversation opened the door to other conversations, because vulnerability practiced in one context becomes more available in others. Dr. Sue Johnson, whose work on emotionally focused therapy and adult attachment has shaped our understanding of what makes relationships last, describes sexual intimacy as one of the most powerful contexts for building and repairing the attachment bond between partners.
When intimacy is a space where both partners feel genuinely seen, genuinely prioritized, and genuinely safe, it strengthens the entire relationship, not just the sexual dimension of it. The couples who use this approach report that their partners become more open, more affectionate, and more emotionally available outside the bedroom.
Because she finally feels that her experience matters in the most intimate possible space, and that changes how she experiences everything else. This is not a bedroom story. It is a relationship story.
Let us wrap this up. She has a sex toy, or she wants one, or she has thought about it, or she has one she has never told you about because she did not know how you would respond. The question is not whether the device exists. The question is what you do with that knowledge. The man who responds with insecurity closes a door. The man who responds with curiosity and genuine care opens one. And on the other side of that door, if the research is to be believed, and it should be, is a version of your intimate life that most couples in long-term relationships have stopped believing was still possible.
More connection, more openness, more of her, fully present, fully responsive, finally getting what she has needed for longer than she has been able to say.
Here is your call to action. 3 things this week. First, watch Part 1 if you have not. The link is above. Donald's story is where this conversation starts.
Second, have the conversation. Not a big production, just the question. Is there something you've wanted from our intimate life that we haven't talked about? I'm genuinely asking. Then listen without an agenda.
Third, decide that her experience matters as much as yours, not as a performance of being a good partner, as an actual daily embodied decision that shows up in your attentiveness, your patience, and your willingness to learn.
The research is on your side. The tools exist. The only thing standing between where you are and where this could go is the conversation you have not had yet. Have it. Part 3 of this series is coming. The Better Man Project.